far for the record.
Welcome to Four Thoughts of Our Founders, the podcast for the Higher Education Leadership Foundation. I am Herman Felton, one of the founders. Riding shotgun with me is Dr. Melva Williams, and in absentia, Dr. Alfred Anthony Pinkard, president of Wilberforce University, sends his greetings. And you know, we got our ace boon coon over in the corner, Mr. Greg Dees. Have some really special guests today. Super excited about it. President of Houston Tillotson University, Dr. Colette Pierce Burnett, and Dr. J, Dr. Adams Gaston from Norfolk State University, affectionately called Dr. J by some students for some years ago, and it has stuck with her. So she has given us permission to ride with Dr. J, and we're going to ride with Dr. J. How you doing today, Doc?
Doing great. How are you guys?
We are wonderful. Dr. Burnett.
Doing well. Good to see you guys, like always.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on? You know, Herman, one thing it's funny, you know, when students love you, you know, you have a nickname, right? So, Dr. J.
That's a good point.
Thank you.
Good point. That is a really good point. We're really excited to have you all here today. It is no surprise that all of us are having challenges dealing with the invisible foe, that of COVID-19. And so much of the narrative around higher education and COVID-19 and the preparedness of it is really driven by, I think, large, affluent institutions. And that voice also is drowning out, I think, the phenomenal work that we're doing as leaders of our institutions. And so we thought it, you know, aptly to make sure that we highlighted particularly some of the women who are leading these multi-million-dollar corporations that are known as historically Black colleges and universities. And today we have two of the best and brightest minds here to talk about data, sustainability, and resilience, and moving an institution through COVID-19. But before we do that, I want to give you all an opportunity to say hello to everybody. So we'll start with, we're gonna do a little hazing here. So we'll start with the new person on the block, the youngest member of the family, Dr. J.
Well, it's a pleasure. I don't know about the youngest, but maybe the newest. I'll take that.
There we go.
I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about Norfolk State University and talk about HBCUs and their preeminence in higher education. I think that sometimes what gets lost is how much HBCUs have done, not only for the African American community, but for the nation at large and for the world. Mm-hmm. Some of the finest minds, the most successful individuals, and individuals who are leading the way have been our graduates of HBCUs. Yeah. I am so proud of the things that have happened and the people who have come before us from Norfolk State University. But I'm really proud of the current students who are talented, who were able to persevere, who were able to do the pivot that we needed to do with immediacy and success. And our graduates this year are just the cream of the crop. And so I think that while there's a lot of focus and a lot of conversation around what happens in PWIs and especially large institutions and institutions that have notoriety, the work is often being done in the HBCUs and the success of those students. Access and affordability for us are key components of why we continue to exist, to make a home where students can really develop who they are and who they want to be in the world in an environment that supports them and pushes them and helps them really dig inside and become their best. And we have a history of doing extremely well in HBCUs.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. Collette?
What I can add to what my sister president just said is one thing that I will be a takeaway from me from this moment of fighting this hidden enemy is the resilience of our schools and the magic of our schools. When there's I've had we punch above our weight. We always get hit the hardest. And then we show our resilience to come through and show exactly who we are as institutions, similar to Black people in general.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of my campus, Houston-Tillerson, and the way we were able to respond to COVID-19 such a short amount of time with a few bumps in the road, but considering just in a very excellent way. And it just speaks to the resilience of my students and their brilliance and how they can adapt and how well they're prepared for the world as they enter into it. So as the president of a historically Black college in Austin, Texas, and going through the COVID-19, this has affirmed our purpose of why we as institutions of higher learning, because it's put a focus on the inequities that our country is consistently faced with. And what we do is to use that education as an equalizer. Yeah. So it has affirmed our purpose. Yeah. And it just highlights why what we do is so invaluable to society at large.
Yeah.
That's a phenomenal point, and you're so right. I mean, our HBCUs were born out of crisis, and born in crisis, and throughout our existence have experienced many hard times. So I want to take you back to the beginning, COVID-19 101, day one. So we all heard the stories. It was in China, watching CNN, and there were blurbs and blips in newspapers about it. So when did you, and we've been asking everyone this question, when did you realize that it was real, going to affect you and your campus, and how did you react?
Ironically, my son, South by Southwest is a global event that happens here in Austin, Texas. And my son was here to be a presenter on a panel. And there was rumors that South by Southwest could potentially be canceled because of the virus. And so people didn't think that was serious because—
Right. Like, what do you mean? What? Of course we'll continue this.
Yes.
We've had it for years.
Exactly. And it brings millions of dollars into the economy of Central Texas. And that just obviously got my interest because I was looking forward, this is selfish, of seeing my son on this panel. And then they canceled South by Southwest. And that made it very real for me.
And so when was that? Was that March? That was early March? Early March. Okay.
EDU, which is actually before South by Southwest. It was very early March. I can't remember the exact date. So we formed a task force here on campus to start paying attention to what was happening. And then it was like a domino effect. I mean, before you knew it, we were, thinking about closing residence halls, and it was like we sailed into a storm
So what do you think that data point was? And I mean, thinking about that, what do you think that, okay, this is it? I mean, for you and your campus, what was that liminal moment that said, this is, yep, shut it down, let's go?
When I realized how infectious the disease was.
Mm-hmm.
We started talking about how it was spreading, and it was spreading in what they call the herd, or just spreading in unknown, something you
right,
like
right.
That was totally invisible. So for me, that was, and we actually decided to close our residence halls right before the city decided to go into a stay-at-home order. Because we were going into spring break, and the students were in finals. So of all the times for them to be in further crises during finals, and in hindsight, time, because that there were two hard decisions that I have made so far, because we're about to make another complicated hard decision. One was closing the residence halls because we had so many students that didn't have a home to go home to, and we didn't have those displaced students, so we had to make accommodations for them, students in the foster care system, homeless students, and students place to return to, something is happening on your campus, but then became very real and tangible. And the second one was postponing commencement, because that was just very hard for me. This is very selfish, but for me, my love tank kind of runs dry by April.
That is the exact same thing that Walter Kimbrough said yesterday. He said he experiences the love tank going dry in this time. Same thing. So you're not alone.
So commencement is like when you get your love tank filled up, and it affirms your purpose. And these young people who have blossomed into these wonderful, wonderful humans about to take on the world. So that was hard for me, to postpone commencement. But with closing the residence halls, in hindsight, was the best decision that we made in that moment. And we waited. But it was that moment of realizing how infectious the disease is.
And I appreciate that, because we had a very similar experience. I was paying very close attention because I had been going to Wuhan. We had an exchange university system, and I've been gone for the last 8 years to Wuhan. So as soon as they said that, I started to really think about, whoa, what's happening? I knew something about the wet markets and those kind of things, dark markets, and those kind of things that were happening. So I was paying attention, and really, I think the moment for me was we were actually in the MEAC tournament. The MEAC tournament was held here in Norfolk, Virginia. In the midst of the tournament, everybody's excited. It's a big moneymaker for everybody. It's well attended. People like it.
Wow.
We're just at the beginning, and we got together as the Council of Presidents and Chancellors of the MEAC to talk about whether or not we could continue the MEAC right in the midst. Right. I mean, we had just had, I think, a day and a half of games, and people were very excited, and people were waiting in the wings to go and play.
Yeah.
And we had to really work through what was in the best interest for the safety of our students and the safety of those who would participate. And we decided that we would not continue the MEAC tournament. So it's a big, big concern for many, many people, particularly for our partners in Norfolk and our partners in the university and our athletes. And I remember going with our athletic director to talk to the men and women's basketball players, and just to say to them, we're here for you. We know this is extremely difficult and it's painful, but we want you to know we're here for you. And so we were in spring break, having the MEAC tournament, and having to make a decision about what to tell our students. We told our students that we were extending spring break for a week, so don't come back. And that gave us the time to then say, we're going online. You're going to have to come pick up your things. And for the very same reason, we ended up having a couple hundred students who really didn't have a place to go. And so we maintained housing for those students, dining for those students, because we know when these students are telling us they don't have anywhere to go, largely it is just the true nature of their experience. And they have lived on campus from year to year. That's how they survive. So we wanted to make sure we met that need. We used that week to help faculty get on board in terms of going to online education and remote education. We had faculty who were trained. Our Office of Extended Learning did extensive training with our faculty, but it was a lot. And I really believe that everybody on every campus that had to do this, especially when your resources are limited, had the same kind of issues. You know, we had the issues where students didn't have laptops. So how are you going to actually, you know, many of them have a smartphone, but you can't do all of your work on the smartphone.
No.
So we were able to provide laptops for students. People don't think about the fact that students live in environments where they don't have internet.
Yeah.
And we think it only happens in rural environments, but it happens also in the urban environment. And so we were able to give them hotspots. We have faculty who have that same issue, that they live in places where they can't get. So really providing all of those things. And I just applaud all of us for lining up the things that needed to be done, how we did it, how we responded. And, you know, sort of a glory hallelujah moment that students got to finish, cross the line. You know, I worked with my students much like most people did and said, tell me what you want, our seniors, what do you want to do about commencement? And they decided that virtual commencement was not what they wanted. They want to come back and have a live commencement. And I'm going to honor that as soon as we possibly can, either in the fall, at the end of the fall. But I think that was important. But then you have highlights of things that happened, like Pharrell Williams was going to be our speaker, and he decided to just do an address to the students. And they got that as a surprise this past Saturday. Things that boost that spirit and give students a sense that they're important.
Yeah.
And I think that I feel the same way. You know, I'm kind of depleted. Wish I had commencement. I did get to have my first commencement here, which was in December. It was wonderful. So I was really looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll get
you know what? This entire week we've been doing these podcasts and these webcast series, and to a man and woman, every president and chancellor, there has been a nexus between each of you all, and that student concern was it. I mean, before a sentence was completed, the first sentence, it was really about the students. The transition was about the student. And that was first and foremost. And while that may seem like something that's simple or fairly innocuous, it is not. It is not. So I think it underscores the type of servant leadership that you can find that's replete throughout the HBCU ranks. We had, I think, a really wonderful conversation yesterday where I too was going crazy over these students because we had the SGA presidents on.
Yes.
And we heard from them. You know, everybody's talking about what students are going to do and what they're not going to do. And it is no surprise why those 4 young men and women were the leaders on their campus. They were bright. They got it. And they, while they had their personal thoughts about wanting to come back, safety was a concern for them too. And this, I'm going to where Colette started, and she started talking about her feelings. I want to get into something light before we jump into the meat and potatoes here. What does it feel like missing honors convocation and maybe founders convocation and certainly graduation, but just watching that transition and a few students coming in to apologize for being real mean to you for 3 or 4 years.
Or being in judicial affairs so many times.
Or being in judicial affairs so many
I'm
times.
sorry. And parents thanking you.
Crying and all that good stuff. What does it feel like to actually miss some of the best parts of what we do?
Okay, yes. It feels like that
Either of
face.
you. It's up,
She was giving
the
you
floor
that
is open.
face. That was
The floor is
like,
open.
that's what it feels like. Oh,
Oh, okay, I got it.
yes.
It's hard. It's a mixed emotion because it's satisfying to know that you're in the right place for your own purpose. Like this is a mission for me.
Yeah.
And graduation is like a metric of success for students. So ironically, I held a meeting with my faculty leadership, a listening session for me to hear from them, their thoughts, because we're doing, as everyone is, extensive modeling and planning on what we are going to do for the fall. We're totally online for the summer, but in that decision space for what we're doing for the fall. So I had a listening session with my faculty leadership, and it was 10 o'clock on last Friday. And my calendar reminded me that honors convocation was starting.
Oh.
And it was right when everybody was logging into Teams. And you know how these virtual meetings, everyone's getting settled. And my notification pops up that it's honors convocation. And my heart just kind of like swelled up in my chest because honors convocation is where we honor these top scholars and the graduating seniors, and we have a phenomenal speaker. We talk about academic excellence, and we give these awards about integrity, honoring diversity, excellence, accountability, and leadership. And we weren't doing that. So I said to the faculty, ironically, and I could see everyone's faces on the Teams meeting, ironically, this is the time that we would be in our garb, our robes, you know, in our academic regalia, honoring our students. And I saw all the faces like have emotion because we are a community.
Yeah.
And it was like the community was missing something. Like, yes, we're mailing the honor certificates out to the scholars. You know, we're going to do all those things. And we worked, right, it's not the same. And we worked really hard to try and make the virtual experience be have emotion to it as well. Mm-hmm. Like, not only did we take instruction online, but we took all of the student services online. Mm-hmm. So, from the counseling center all the way to student affairs, we had a virtual. Mm-hmm. We took everything online, trying to keep that HBCU magic to touch our students because we need them to stay engaged and for us to keep touching them. So that was really like a moment of loss for me when I saw it supposed to be honors convocation. And it rained on commencement last year, which was my first full class. And we moved it inside. Oh, that was traumatic.
Because we've seen your beautiful lawn where it's, you know, where you showed me, you know, where you showed us where it's supposed to be. It's gorgeous. Right. Yeah.
We just like all HBCUs, we graduate families.
Yeah.
Not individuals. So that celebration for communities across the country was lost. Temporarily. I keep telling students it's temporary because like my sister president, you know, it's postponed. And as soon as we can gather, we will gather and celebrate them in the way that they deserve. Mm-hmm. So it was that. So it's very, because this is not a job of widgets. It's a mission.
Yeah.
Laboring in vineyard, and it's a mission.
Yeah.
You know, President Burnett, I often say, this is my mission and I was sent to do this work. And I love it. I love what you said about HBCU Magic, because there is something that has to do with how students become their best selves because of the faculty, because of the staff, because of the environment. And that doesn't happen in the same way other places. So I just have to agree with you on that. I would say it created such trauma for me in the same ways that you talked about. You know, one of our departments, our chemistry department, decided to have a ceremony on Zoom. And they had over 90 people. They had their alums come, they had a speaker, they had the students, they recognized them. And it actually turned out wonderfully. I don't even know how we got it done. It was supposed to be an hour. Of course, it went 2 hours, but it got done. And people felt really good about that honor. but nothing replaces that in-person moment where you hear the families cheering for their young person, and
Yes.
family trees are being changed
Yeah.
because these young people or people who are returning are having the opportunity to live their dream. That's what the HBCU Magic is all about.
Yeah,
That,
that is
that,
so true. And we talked yesterday about the secret sauce and how do we put that into this Zoom box that we're all in, and how do we incorporate that into our world, into our new normal, and what it may look like for us in the fall. So who knows? We'll continue to see. So
great
next
segue.
question.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me?
I just said that's a great segue.
Yeah, yes. So moving from there to the discussion of leading through COVID, how have you used, data in this point to make your decisions and to become resolve in some of the things that you have done and will be doing in the future?
And to add
And
to
maybe
that,
what data are you using specifically?
and I want to know, just because I'm curious, how many models are you're playing with
Oh
right
yeah.
now? How many
Hmm.
different models you play? So we'll start with you, Dr. J.
Sure, happy to do that. One of the things that happens here is the governor comes on 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. He started out every day, and he has his chief medical individual update us on the data, not
Mm-hmm.
only for the state, but also for the nation. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been really tracking on the Johns Hopkins University data and really
Okay.
looking at what the impact is, where the hot spots are, what the issues are that we have to deal with, and utilizing all the data that's out there in terms of decision making related to safety and being able to conduct business here. So we have a chief medical officer here, Dr. Vanessa Blow, who has done an excellent job of gathering that data, making sure we're up to speed, making
Mm-hmm.
sure we know what we have to do. She and I, every Friday morning, are on our university radio station talking about COVID-19 and what we've done week by week so we can update not only our
That's great.
community on campus, but across. And it's been very, very helpful.
Wow.
Um, but, and our chief of police has been great as an addition. Both Dr. Blow and the chief of police have been really great as an addition to our executive team, who
Mm-hmm.
meet, of course, weekly, probably sometimes 3, 4 times in the week. And we have subgroups that meet, come back together, try to figure out, okay, what do we need to do? So there have been large decisions, and we've included our faculty senate rep, our SGA rep, and others in the community. I think all of us are doing pretty much that same thing. I think the reason that we do that is it allows us to make informed decisions. And the decisions are difficult because when we had to decide who stayed and who did not stay on campus, so we have a stay-at-home order by the state. And when we looked at how to being home versus being here, we had to really think about people for whom the portability of their job was not that easy. But we wanted to ensure they still were able to do something meaningful so that they could, get paid. And so we had people swap and move into areas and do work that they would not normally have been doing. But I
Hmm.
think it's been good for them because they have found out that they can do many more things than I think, their core jobs have been. Our goal was to ensure people continued to be able to work and to be successful in their work and to contribute back to the university. I remember the day that we told the last group that we were really going to have just a very skeleton group who come to campus. And I was in the elevator with one of the staff members. She had her 2 plants with her, and she said, "You're making us go home." And I said, "No, I'm having you work from home." She said, "But I really want to be here." And I said, "You'll still be here in spirit because what you bring is so important to us. But for your safety and the safety of all of us, it's best that you are not physically here.
So what I can add to that is some of the data in the decision is governed by the governor and the mayor. So governor, sets the rules for Texas, and we are one of the states that is opening slowly. And then our mayor also sets suggestions to what the governor has said. So like they highly encourage you to do these things in light of what the governor said. So those are data points that we cannot get around as an institution in Austin. For us, the reason that this is such a complicated decision for us all, I believe, is because this is not an outbreak of the flu.
Right.
You can bring back an economy, but you can't bring back a life. So that is the ultimate risk that you're taking when you make these decisions, whether you're going to be on the ground or not. So our three scenarios, of course, are having students return in some time frame, go hybrid. For example, one of the things that we're thinking about potentially is to do something with freshmen or do something by classification. And then, of course, there's the decision to go fully online. So the data points are, language that words we didn't have in our language before, which is the contact tracing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How we progress with that. The validity of testing, the availability of testing, and how we progress with that. The communities that our students are coming from are generally those communities that are, as we all know, affected at higher rates than most communities. So that's the data point. So the
space. Also spacing.
Because we're a small campus. And our older buildings don't have the best HVAC units for circulating air. Some of our facilities, I mean, we're hot in the summer and cold in the winter. So, that won't change because of COVID-19.
Right.
We have our buildings, our older buildings. The residence halls, from a revenue perspective, is it worth mitigating it where we only have a few students allow just a few students to be in the residence halls because of social distancing? My rooms we do have community rooms with community bathrooms. So you have to run, there's an expense there to sanitize and constant, because even now we sanitize the campus and we're a skeleton crew on campus right now.
Sure.
Sanitize it, and there's an expense to that. So all of those factors weigh in. The revenue loss from, if the students don't return is a concern, but for me to mitigate that risk for the safety of my students and the communities, my faculty, my staff, at some point, that seesaw flips to the side of keeping my students healthy. I keep emphasizing this is temporary. We're not making this decision for the rest of the history of the institution. So yes, it's going to change the way this will be a new normal. It's up to us how we create that new normal. But those are all those data points that you have to think of. And science, we are following science, following the science, following the public health officials. And that outweighs the revenue because we work hard to make it. And this is not new for HBCUs.
No.
Making it happen with limited resources.
Right.
What's frightening to me as I think about, of course, you and I are in the same state, Colette, and we have been forced in a lot of ways to respond. Well, you turn on the television and you read the Chronicle, and you see the coalition of big, well-resourced institutions saying, we're not coming back for the fall. And then you see folks saying, we're coming back for the fall. And then you have folks in your community that are full steam ahead. And then you get the folk on these commissions, I won't say which athletic commission it is, who are dogmatic about bringing student athletes back and getting them going. And I find myself struggling with not caring about what anybody else does, because I know Dr. Fauci, John Hopkins, Sanjay Gupta, and all the other folk talking about this disease are really, really, really pointing a picture that says there's going to be a time, we're at a point of inflection. And if we factor in the students we serve, the populace that they come from, we know that they're at a much greater risk. And when you factor all the other things in, you wonder if whether or not people are really much better where they are for now than them coming back. But the duality of this position makes you look at the other side as well. And that has been, the struggle. And I'm glad you talked about, both of you talked about the data points and the lexicon that we now
But the
have to
but
put
the peer
into.
pressure,
Yeah, and
as
that's where I was
Roz
going.
talked
Peer
about
pressure.
yesterday, that peer pressure
Yeah,
of, you're looking left, looking right. What do
yeah.
you do?
That's the question. How much of that factors into your decision making? And maybe we can use a softer word, but for us, peer pressure is what it is. Like, how does that influence the decision making inside in your war rooms? Where does what everybody else is doing come into play, Dr. J?
Well, certainly for us, we have a council of presidents of all of the uh, state universities in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And we meet at least weekly, sometimes more than that, to really talk about issues and how people are moving forward. But, there's a range of folks in that board. And Dr. Abdullah, who was on yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
is the other. Um, we are the two public HBCUs in the state.
Y'all really love each other too, don't y'all?
We do. And then fortunately for us, we make sure that we stay aligned.
Yeah.
They're like,
So,
we're watching.
but, we're also looking at what the rest of the state is saying and how they're responding and what does it mean for the decisions that are being made. There is some sense that there's a desire to sort of be somewhat aligned. I think the reality is everybody ends up having to look at their own place and saying, what is in the best interest of this population? And one of the issues that I think about a lot is the economic issue of our students. We have a high proportion of students who are Pell eligible. We have a high proportion of students who have need. And I think our students are saying, we want to come back. We're ready.
Yeah.
But I look at what's happening in the country and the disparity that happens already economically. I look at parents having to make very hard decisions when we so-called open the doors again, and saying, they've got rent and mortgages that are backed up that they need to pay and other bills and other children. And though I think they will want very much to send their children to college, I think it's a very tough decision. And into helping our legislators. Unfortunately, we've got some really strong legislators here in Virginia, but you're really saying you've got to get financial aid and Pell Grants. You've got to get those dollars up, because if we want students to come and be successful, we can't, sort of pound on the families who may not have been at work or may not have been paid during this period, in a way that makes it impossible for them to bring their students to university.
And especially at a time when even physically getting them back to campus is an expense. I mean, getting them home, getting the bus ticket. Some of the students mentioned yesterday, Dr. Felton literally driving students to the airport. So, a Greyhound, an airplane ticket is an expense these days.
Yeah.
Dr. Collette?
We exhausted our emergency grant. We had, the university had an emergency grant, and we exhausted it almost spontaneously in helping students get home, because students just could not afford it. Their families could not afford it, because, we have 45% first generation. We take for granted. I'll just send my students, get them a bus ticket home.
Right.
Right. It's not, it's just like we assume that the internet is a utility, and it is not. Everybody does not have access to the internet.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, yeah. And the other thing, I remember watching Harvard's decision, and it was swift. You know, leave. And
And
obviously,
leave in a few days.
no, it was like not a few days. It was leave.
Oh yeah. Oh,
It was
today,
leave. Yeah.
tonight.
And I remember thinking to myself, oh, what luxury to have,
Right.
not only for the institution, but for the students. You know, this type of situation for us was carefully curated. We had to first tell the board of trustees what we wanted to do, get their buy-in, and then have a family meeting where you don't get to send a representative. The president has to go up and say, hey, this is what we're doing, and take these questions from these kids who don't have the agency to really comprehend what's going on right then. And that turned into what you all have said. Like, we it wasn't a okay, you need to go home, and then we go about doing. No, we had to get them home. We had to call folks. We had to give folks money for baggage fees, and also per diem. I mean, while you're making this drive across the country, or
Right.
that really embodies the spirit of the law. There's a letter of the law that runs every institution around this piece, and I think what differentiates our schools from others is that spirit of law, of the law, that mission, the ethos of our institutions are something that are living and breathing, and they will suffocate you if you're on the campus enough and you find yourself doing those things that other places may not have the luxury to do. We really don't either, but we can't imagine not doing it because it would be more injurious to whatever they're dealing with to the students. When we talk about data and collecting it and the different types of models that we have to run, the question really is about, and I love the point of inflection that you made, Colette, about the fact that this is temporary. Like, this is not forever. And we also need to be thinking about sustainability while we're going through this crisis. You know, St. Thomas Aquinas always talks about, or talked about, not always, because he's been dead for a very long time, but about foresight and graded by
Yes.
public administrators, right? I'm sorry,
There you
Colette.
go.
You know, I had a Coca-Cola this morning and it's got me jippery.
You did? You had Coke?
I had a
Uh-oh.
Coke this morning.
We're in trouble.
But Aquinas talked about public administrators and the ability to have foresight, and nuanced in that is being able to manage several different things. And so sustainability, while we're grappling with this unknown foe, we're also piercing into the future. What do we use to really govern this notion around sustainability, and what does it look like after the COVID relief funds that we had? How do we deploy those resources to ensure that we're insulated from, as much as possible, from a dip if we experience one, and are prepared to really come out of this thing swinging a big bat towards a home run for sustainability?
A part of the modeling is the budget modeling,
Mm-hmm.
the what if scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
What happens if your enrollment, when we go online, and we lose this revenue from the residence hall and the dining services, then what impact does that have to the budget? He who fails to plan plans to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And also, as a leader, that one of the challenges is to get everyone to believe what I believe, that the university will be stronger on the other side of this.
Yes.
This will strengthen us.
Mm-hmm.
It will not, we will be feeling weak as we go through it, but it will in fact strengthen us. And I do strongly believe that. Now, if we have to be good stewards of our resources, we have to, and these are things that we were doing anyway, but now we have another factor in the equation that we did not expect, but we have to plan around it or plan through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to we're doing a massive fundraising campaign for COVID-19 support for what we consider known and unknown impacts, because we're private, so we're heavily dependent on our tuition revenue and our fundraising. And, and generally people invest to grow, not to heal.
Hmm.
So now's the time that we talk about investing to healing and for the sustainability of the institution, for some some strong initiatives that we have, like recognizing the challenges that we have because our students were not equipped to be online. So whether you're online or not, you need to have the latest technology.
Right.
Experience. And we want to buy softwares that now we know we don't have, like virtual lab softwares, how to teach music virtually. So the campaign is around that, for the university to be able to get those things that will sustain us irrespective of on the other side, whether we stay online or on ground. But when we this, we will be a better institution as a result of the things that we realize we're not equipped with right now. And it's securing the funding to do that. So that's sustainability, and having that forethought, to be able to say these are very specific things. Another thing is we talk about our STEM programs, but now we see the lack of people of color at the public official level that we need representation at. So what does our programming look like? We have a biology department. Our biologists, a very strong biology department. So our biologists, what are they prepared to do?
Mm-hmm.
As a liberal arts institution, social activists on helping people to navigate the medical system, is that what our social workers should be doing? So it's time for us to rethink and be innovative in what role can Houston-Tillotson play in the new normal, and also to be a voice for the fact that we cannot return to the old normal, because this light that has been shown on the inequities, let's do something about it. This is an opportunity for institutions of higher education, particularly HBCUs, to keep that wheel going. And that's hard, because we tend to kind of get lulled back to sleep and think, okay, everything.
Absolutely.
And it's not. And that is a role we have to play. That's a role we play. So we have to really highlight that. So when we talk about sustainability, it's really looking at your budget, the different scenarios that you have within your budget, how you can manage your institution through that. And like we said earlier, that's not new to how we operate.
Yeah.
Small dip in enrollment is hard for us.
It could be big.
So this is, my admissions team is working super hard to try and be innovative and creative and, recruiting young people. Like I said earlier, it's just holding on to them is a challenge. They cannot take a gap year.
Yeah.
Engage. And that's a part of our sustainability, is continuing to keep students, to keeping them persisting. Be creative. I was on a phone call with one of my deans this morning about, we have a Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. It cannot lie dormant right now.
This is the time, right? Now is the time.
Virtual, like everybody, we got to stretch out there and lean into where we are, because this is not nap time.
Yeah.
Right.
This is time we're probably working harder. Like we were probably Zooming.
Oh, whoa. I have Zoom lash. Yes. I told my team, I said, some people have whiplash. I have Zoom lash. I have Zoomed and I am lashed. Okay. I'm like, is there a seatbelt that I'm supposed to wear? Because I am on this box. I'm in this little bitty square. And it's like claustrophobic, because I'm just looking at this. I have no headroom. Anyway, I'm sorry. Continue, Colette. I'm sorry, Dr. Colette. Dr. J, please go. But yeah, tired.
I'm with you. Zooming, I feel like, we're just Zooming all day and all night. People talk about what happens if you are staying at home and, is it more difficult or is it easier? And I come over to the office almost every day, but I will say every day everybody else is on Zoom. So that's where I end up. And so
Right.
make it work. We make it work. That's
Yeah.
what we do. In terms of our sustainability, I absolutely support what Madam President has just said, because we're really looking at how do we not only recover, so think about the large chunks of money that we all return to students for their housing and dining, and that hit to our bottom line in our budgets. But you also are thinking about, as you model, will we come back fully? Will we come back hybrid? Will we come back only online? What are the budget implications for each of those? How do you sort of manage through and make sure you have um, enough funding so that you can keep the enterprise going in any of those situations? And what does that mean in terms of who's here and who's employed and all of those things? So we want to keep our institution whole. And we're working very hard to do that. And when we look at sustainability, I'm not just thinking about how to get from this year to next year, although I have to tell you, there's a lot of my time on that.
Yes.
And we got great teams of people and sub teams of people all working together on that. But I really have to think, and I think as leaders, we all have to think about, where will this institution be in 10 years?
Long term.
Where will this institution be in 20 years? And that, when I start to think in that way, I think we're never going to be the same as we were. It just isn't possible to be the same. So how do we think about what's new, innovative, and different that allows us to move in a forward-thinking way, in a way that really we are able to be at the front end of the change, not sort of the tail end, sort of catching up. And I think this is our moment. I think we really have something, because we're talking to each other, we're working with each other, we're looking at alternatives, we're looking at ways that we can stretch our dollars by coordinating some things and growing. That, I think, for the HBCU community could put us in the front.
Yeah, well, for so long this notion of shared services was novel, right? And so it's been obliterated, and we see that it actually can be done. The boogeyman has been defeated. The boogeyman of, I don't want to teach online, or there's, I don't want to do this on the computer.
Too late.
Dead. Boogeyman doesn't even exist anymore, right? I remember telling the faculty that, and they died laughing. Like, I'm dead serious. No longer is the boogeyman there. I think out of this, hearing both of you posit about sustainability with a sharp eye on now, but a piercing eye into the future, really speaks volumes about the methodical nature in which you understand you have to employ, right? We've got to do all things. And I think it was Rosalind Clark Artist yesterday who said that range is nothing that we're short of here. As leaders of our institutions, we have range, we have depth. We're not one-trick ponies. These institutions require that you are able to do multiple things in a variety of different ways at the same time, and in the spirit of excellence. The conversation has been really great. I want to end on resilience, but with a different twist. Give me some examples of your thoughts on the spirit of your college and a university, and how you've witnessed resilience move through, whether it was at the beginning or now, the resilience of any constituent group that kind of carried you through. When you look back, like, these are long, daunting days with a ton of information and ever changing. But are there any liminal moments that really picture what resilience looks like for the Spartan family and the Ram family? Are there any moments that you can share with us that really made you happy?
I would say, for me, the faculty getting on board with going online and being remote and being trained for that. really was a pivotal time, because what I got out of that is they want to do what's in the best interest of what I call our mission of student success. Nothing we do, or everything we do every day, ought to be focused on student success. So when they were willing to pivot and get right on board with that, and really try to be prepared for that, and that's a tough thing to do. I think I would also say our facilities folks, people who are housekeeping and others, they jumped in, they did whatever it takes. They're the unseen part of the institution that really is a heart of the institution, because every day they're doing that disinfecting, they're doing that, making
Absolutely.
sure things are working. And, I was saying, I want to make sure they get the materials, the PPE that they need to be safe, because I want them to know we care about them. And then I would say, just from the point of thinking about resiliency, it is really the nature of African Americans to have had to be resilient, because we would not be here without extraordinary resilience. And, we are often called upon to do more with less, and we do. I think we ought to push people to give more, because we have been so successful. But, that's a part of the story. I think that when I look at my administrators, my executive team, and the directors and of programs and our deans, what I see are people who care about this institution and care about the success of this institution in such a way that they will take care of the business that needs to be taken care of in order for us to get things done, and with swiftness. And I think that's something that people don't get to see, but it's happening every day. Um, I know that this was a hard time for our students. I know that this was not how our graduating class had hoped their ending would be, but they've been resilient. They have worked with us. They have been focused. And what I see is, you know, I'm a psychologist by training. And what I always say to, when I worked in private practice, I would always say to people, it is really the opportunity for you to choose how you want to be in the future. We can't change what happened, but what we can change is our approach to and how we work through those issues so that you can be successful. And that's what I see our institutions doing in a way that just gives me such pride, and I feel so grateful to be in the HBCU community.
That's beautiful. Colette?
Well, we were not an online school at all. We had some hybrid courses, but we didn't have any fully online degrees at all. So resilience is when you don't pause, you just keep going despite. And when we had to go online, there was no pause at all from our faculty, like none. They asked for us to extend spring 1 week so that they would have time to prepare their courses to go online, for them to be delivered, the remaining instruction to be delivered online without a pause. There was no pause.
Wow.
There were no naysayers. There were no, we don't want to do this. There was no pause. So that to me is resilience. Same thing with students. On the first day, I had great anxiety on that Monday, March the 30th. It will go history in my life.
Like, please, Lord Jesus.
It was a moment.
Let it not break.
It was almost like the Y2K moment where we're all
yes, at midnight, waiting for 12:01 to see what's good, if the lights are gonna shut off. Like, okay, is all this about this?
It was that kind of moment in my work, my space.
Jesus.
So that morning, classes, open. We saw the data. We use Canvas as our learning management system. Students were attending at rates higher than we had reported in, the middle of the term. Things kind of started. We had tremendous engagement. Our pandemic preparedness plan rolled out of frequently asked questions. People were in, it was like without pause. And that's resiliency, that when a force comes against you, you move through the force. And
Wow.
the faculty moved through the force. The students were just tremendous. I mean, they were frustrated about what was happening around them, because we forget, I think Herman said earlier, they have lives going on around them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the staff, my IT staff, just phenomenal. Just 24/7 operation, just phenomenal. And the staff that just keep the place going. And like Madam President said earlier, the people who, what they do,
Mm-hmm.
period.
Yeah.
And even though we're in this big storm right now, fighting this hidden enemy, this is what they do. And that just kind of just continuing to move through it without pause. And that's what the HBCU magic really is.
Oh, that is so true. And so many others are trying to get our sauce, and you know, just
It's
impossible. You know,
Mhm.
it's like it's grandma's recipe. You can't you cannot figure it out. Okay. So we are going to wrap this up with a little interesting question. What have you been doing for fun? So I'm watching I mean, really. So I've been watching social media, and I'm catching up with all of the celebrities, because you know they're not working, they're just sitting around and doing all these things. Some people are eating themselves into an oblivion. There are other people who are training for some phantom event that they're working out toward, because I don't know, a beach body that we will not be using this year. So we're not going to be using this beach body this year. Summer's canceled, people. I'm just telling people.
You just made a lot of people happy. You do know
I'm
that,
making
right?
an announcement. Just
Is that
let it go.
official? Is that an official announcement?
That's
Okay.
official.
All right.
Fauci and I, we talk, we text. So
Okay.
he's just telling me, and now I'm just telling y'all.
Yeah.
Summer's canceled.
Okay.
Just put some clothes on. Just call it. So what have you been doing for fun, or what have you been doing that's interesting, or what, tell us a little bit about your downtime. Dr. J, what have you been doing?
That's the hard one.
Let us in.
Downtime is hard to come by, but it's important. And
Yes.
so my husband and I have really been looking at things that we enjoy doing together. And it's been really interesting, because it's taken us on walks in the evening, which is funny, because when we were dating, we used to go on walks in Iowa in the cold.
Oh, okay.
Different story for a different day. Okay. We find ourselves doing things like playing cards together, or other games together, or reading things to each other, which is really very interesting. So I think that because there's that homestay component, it's hard, because particularly I found if I were working at home, I might do 12 hours sitting at the kitchen table. And that's not really healthy. So it's a little bit better if I come to the office and then go back. And then the expectation is, we spend time together. I think it's important for people, whatever you're doing, to connect to other people. On Mother's Day, we had a Zoom call with all the mothers in the family. My younger daughter put this together.
Nice.
It was
Very nice.
Great opportunity for aunties and sisters and others to spend time together. I really encourage people to reach out, because one of the things we're finding is loneliness is the byproduct of some of the stay at home. And that translates to our campuses. We already know that anxiety has eclipsed depression as the #1 issue for our students nationally. So making sure that they're connected, making sure that we're connected, making sure that we're refreshed, that's something that I'm really working on. I love to read, so that's the other piece.
Nice. Okay. Fun for you. Nice.
Before we transfer to Colette, any good book that you'd like to share with anyone? Any good readings?
So I'm reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' book, the the water, whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I can't remember the latest one that he put out, which is a fiction book.
Yes.
Highly, highly recommended. Reading it very slowly. I can't even believe how slowly I'm reading it, but
It's a lot to read.
It's
a lot to
great.
read.
Yeah.
Nice.
Is it the water darker, the water dancer,
Dancer.
Yes, the water dancer. That's it.
I have it on audiobooks. And it's been it's slow doses of it.
And it's a lot to bring into your spirit. So I like that.
It is.
Dr. Collette, what have you been doing?
Well, downtime is hard to come by. So
right.
My family, particularly my husband, stays on me all the time about doing something to be away from the stress of what's happening with the university. And I'm not good at it at a normal time. So,
what would you expect in a pandemic, right? We're having a whole global pandemic and you want me to exercise, right? Or do something like somebody who has been doing, but I'll tell you about him later. But go ahead, Colette.
I can imagine. My kitchen has probably seen me more in the last month than it has in the 5 years I've been on this job. In fact, I live in a apartment, and we got a notice reminding the residents on the floor that I'm on that there should be no smoking. Apparently it's a no smoking building. So I had my family laughing because I said it might have been my black eyed peas.
Right. It's like, it could have been me. Could have been me.
It was me.
Maybe it was me.
Fried fish that I made for breakfast grits one morning.
Yes.
My culinary.
Cooking.
Right, my culinary skills. That's something I don't normally get to do because the job dictates you have every meeting is generally over a meal. So
right.
You get to do a lot of cooking, and I love to cook. So that is relaxing for me. And I'm reading a book, The Book of Joy, by Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. Doing a virtual book club as a fundraiser. So I'm reading that book. It is really, there are no coincidences. Coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. This is the time for me to read a book about the Book of Joy, because, you preach it about well-being, mental health, etc. But true joy and true well-being is something that in our roles, we can sometimes forget we need to really pursue it in our own lives and embrace it, because we have it and learn how to embrace it.
Yeah.
So, that is absolutely true.
Very modest. You've been breaking the internet too.
Yes, your commencement letter. I said, Colette, you're not gonna have me over here snapping and crying. Now I'm not gonna cry.
And her Don't Rush challenge.
Instagram.
That was fun.
Rush challenge.
It's funny, the commencement
Don't rush.
Feeling earlier, and
it was beautiful.
Reading the letter, there's a point in there where I got the ugly face cry when I was reading it. Because I
think I know that point, because I was like, I'm not. It was coming, and I said, I'm not gonna cry in this Instagram.
Their success is I'm so proud of their resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And it hits you in that odd moment.
Mm.
Dr. J, if you hadn't seen it, Dr. Collette penned and wrote a letter to her graduates, and it was just a masterpiece. It was really powerful, and I'm still not gonna let you slide. You know this breaking the internet with the Don't Rush challenge. Don't act like you haven't been having any fun. I know you had fun for at least 7 minutes while you made that.
I told you that was a stress reliever. I've told you that before. That was putting that together was a lot of fun. So that was
it was fun watching.
It really was.
So any final comments from you all? I guess I'll leave it, let Dr. J and then Collette just say any final words, any message to your students or faculty or staff or anybody you want to, or us, or anything you want to leave us with.
Well, I first want to thank the two of you. This has really been a privilege and fun. Thank you for making it fun.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
to connect with you, President Burnett, and I know we will be connecting further because we got roots that go way back, and that's great. I think things like this are important to our community, and they're important to the world. It's important for people to see the struggles and to see the success, to see the way that we approach problems, which is very metric based and very
That's
based
right.
in real statistics and real world data. And I think there's often the view that that's not happening. It certainly is. And then I think this whole notion of resiliency, what we have been able to do as a people and to bring other people along who may not look like us, but also benefit from what we do here on these campuses and beyond. So I am just so grateful. I have the best campus in the world. I know we all think that, but I really have it. So,
Yeah, I really do.
so
I really do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It is with
I'd actually have a problem with you if you didn't assert that.
That's right.
I am just having a great time. It's not that it's easy every day. And I tell people all the time, the walk is a long walk, and it's great to have people with you who
Yeah.
support, understand, and want to be there. But it has been really important, and it's important work. It makes a difference in the life, as I said, of our students, their families, our community, and the country and the world. And so
Yes.
no one should ever forget the impact that we are making on the world. And so it's just my privilege to be part of this.
Speaking of impact, before you comment, you two have touched some folk. Karen Felton, who we have no relation to, in the comments said, "Yes, I see future me on this screen." So you should know that
Oh.
your very existence is powerful for people, especially women of color, to see other women of color leading, but leading with excellence, with class, and with poise. I just wanted to put another brick on your shoulders to know that you have there's some heavy weight that you're carrying around there, and
Thanks.
the yeah, the
Sure, they
notion
needed that
that
extra
people can
brick.
see themselves in you, I think is just it is an honor as well. So I wanted to share that with you. And your alums, both from HT and Norfolk State, have been going crazy about how much they love both of you. So I just wanted you to
Yes.
know that before you got off this piece.
That's a spacecraft that you want me to talk and be.
Yes.
Um, you know what my sister said. Kindred spirit. I could definitely feel and see that. I appreciate what health does in a big way. Because you're a catalyst for change. You force the conversation and you do it that makes us human. And that it's that humanity that really helps to push things forward and to make change. So my closing thoughts or my closing remarks are to encourage people to keep that will for change. I mean, our schools, people tend to think that we do what we do without support and help and assistance for our invaluable mission. So we have to keep that will in this brutal moment that we're living. There really is opportunity here. As you know, my John Garland, I served him for 15 years at Central State, and he used to say, we were in the middle of rebuilding the institution. He would say, you got to take advantage of a crisis and not let the crisis destroy you. So we will be stronger on the other side of this, but we have to seize the opportunity that the crisis offers us, as painful as the crisis is, because it's a very moment. But that's how you keep your head up, and that's what resilience is all about, and that's who we are as a people. That's just a fact. So the kings and queens that we serve, the individuals that we serve on our campuses of all walks from life, that's the message that we break generational poverty. We make people bloom into their natural, wonderful self. We help them to see who they really are and be comfortable with their own identity, their own self. So let's just keep doing that work. And people have to invest in us for us to be able to continue that very important work. And we'll persist. We punch above our weight, and the battle is this is nothing for us in the bigger scheme. So we just have to keep that HBCU magic going.
Yeah. There is absolutely nothing left to say. Just want to thank you on behalf of the foundation. I know that Zooming is going on, and you probably got some more Zooming to get to, but I'm just so happy that you all had time to just take a minute and really showcase the type of leadership that we have at our institutions. And I'm also grateful to be in the fold leading with both of you. To my fellow Avengers, I say thank you on behalf of the foundation. And we're super excited, and know that when we can go back outside to play, that you both will be at Health with open invitations, because there's a populace that needs to hear from you all. And I just know that the brilliance that you have, your institutions are in great hands, and we're just grateful to have you. So thank you again for being with us today. We love you in Christ. We love you in spirit, and we hope that God keeps you in the very palm of his hand.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Really loved it.
Virtual hugs.
Virtual hugs.
Yes.
A real one on deck as soon as I see you both.
We got something coming your way as well. We got something coming your way. Peace and blessings, my sisters.
Thank you.
Take care. This has been another great episode of Forethoughts of Our Founders, the Higher Education Leadership Podcast, where we believe that zealots of this space have a right to proclaim that they are indeed zealots and protectors and curators of it as well. Want to thank again Dr. Colette Pierce-Burnett of Houston Tilliston, in the mighty city of Austin, Texas, and Central Texas, and that wonderful place in Norfolk, Virginia, home of the Spartan, Norfolk State University's president extraordinaire, Dr. J. Gaston, Adams Gaston. Thank you all. We wish you love, and be good. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.